at a pile of trash and wondered if it could bloom into beauty? Here on Verdant Dreams, we turn the overlooked into the unforgettable. Today's video explores DIY trash garden ideas, creative ways to recycle bottles, cans, stones, and pipes into borders, fences, and patio accents that transform even the tiniest yard. This video comes with timestamps, so you can jump to the ideas that inspire you most. If something sparks a question, leave it in the comments. I'll be there to talk with you. And if you find joy in these ideas, let them guide your own creativity and see how far your imagination can take you. Maybe to you, I'm just another face on a screen. But behind every video is a real story, a real family. This isn't just content, it's a piece of my heart. Each like, comment, and subscribe keeps this dream alive. When you choose to subscribe, you're not only supporting a channel, you're giving a small family hope, one click at a time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for seeing me. There is a quiet kind of joy in giving discarded things a new life. Imagine walking through a cottage-inspired garden where every detail feels handcrafted with love. The path bends gently, guiding the eye toward a border that does not belong to a catalog but to a heart's imagination. Here, bottles once forgotten in bins are reborn as blossoms, cut with care, shaped like petals, and brushed in colors soft enough to invite butterflies yet bold enough to catch the morning sun. The effect is enchanting. When light pours across the garden, the painted surfaces glow like stained glass, scattering hues of pink, lavender, and amber onto the soil. Each bottle holds a small story of renewal, a reminder that beauty is not always purchased, it is often created with patience and play. Behind these borders, chrysanthemums stand tall, their golden crowns shimmering beside clusters of purple asters. Marigolds spill warmth across the edges, and sedum autumn joy folds into layers of coral and green, offering texture that lasts deep into autumn. Japanese anemones lean gracefully, their pale petals dancing in the cool breeze, guardians of both charm and resilience. The border does more than frame the garden, it frames a philosophy. It says that small spaces need not be ordinary. Even the tiniest yard or the narrowest patio can bloom with personality when infused with creativity. Visitors pause at the site, not because the bottles are grand, but because they are familiar, transformed into something unexpected. Children may smile at the rainbow of colors, while adults linger in the nostalgia of seeing a simple material given dignity. Placed along favorite corners, by a bench beneath a pergola or beside the front gate, the edging becomes more than decoration. It becomes conversation. It becomes a secret delight shared between gardener and guest. And in every season, the bottles stand resilient, their colors whispering softly to the flowers they accompany. We too have found a way to bloom again. As the evening settles, the garden begins to reveal a softer character, an intimate whisper of light and shadow. It is here that the rustic and lantern pathway comes alive, inviting footsteps to slow and spirits to rest. What was once an ordinary collection of discarded tin cans has been reborn into glowing companions of the night, painted with farmhouse charm and punctured with patterns that let the light spill like poetry. Along the narrow stone path, the lanterns stand in rhythm, each holding a gentle flame within. They are not grand chandeliers, nor are they polished antiques. Instead, they hold the kind of beauty that emerges from humility, a reminder that warmth can come from the simplest of hands. Their colors, sage green, muted cream, rustic red, blend naturally with the earth, while bursts of turquoise and coral lend playfulness to the scene. When the LED lights flicker through the holes, stars scatter across the ground, dancing on petals of chrysanthemums and asters. Marigolds, bold and golden, seem to glow brighter as if sharing secrets with their luminous neighbors. Japanese anemones sway like lantern dancers, catching shadows upon their pale petals. The sedum autumn joy holds on to the last hues of daylight, merging with the lantern's glow in a harmony of fire and flower. The pathway becomes more than a route, it is a stage. Couples walking side by side may linger longer, tracing the playful shapes cast on their hands. Children giggle as the lights shift with their movement, turning the ground into a living canvas. Even in solitude, the pathway speaks softly to the one who walks it, offering a sense of belonging and comfort. Placed beneath a pergola or beside a gazebo, the rustic and lanterns extend their reach, transforming corners of the garden into sanctuaries of warmth. They do not pretend to be perfect, but in their imperfection lies their art. Their message is clear: beauty thrives not in the expensive, but in the thoughtful. And so, when twilight falls, the garden glows not from electricity alone, but from the spark of creativity, where trash finds redemption, and light is drawn from the quiet heart of upcycling. something timeless about stones. They carry the weight of seasons, the hush of rivers, and the patience of mountains. Yet in the hands of a dreamer, they become more than remnants of the earth. They become mosaics of memory and color. In this garden, the border tells its story not with bricks or concrete, but with stones painted by hand, each one a brushstroke in a greater design. Along the front yard, the stones curl into swirling patterns, a mosaic of turquoise, lavender, and sunflower yellow. From a distance, the border looks like a ribbon unfurling across the soil, framing the garden beds with an artistry that belongs both to nature and to human imagination. Chrysanthemums rise proudly behind the border, their golden petals echoing the warmth of the painted stones. Asters weave violet accents into the display, blending naturally with the palette under the gentle afternoon sun. In the backyard corner, where a rustic pergola casts patterned shadows, another mosaic tells a different tale. Here, blues and greens ripple like water, while oranges and corals suggest the glow of autumn leaves. Marigolds spill over the edges, their vibrant blooms softening the stone's geometry. Sedum autumn joy adds texture, grounding the display in seasonal richness. Butterflies hover as if drawn not only to the flowers but to the stones themselves, curious about the unusual garden jewelry at their feet. Along a narrow pathway, the stones arrange themselves into petals and vines. Each piece is small, but together they sing of joy and renewal. Japanese anemones lean gracefully above, their pale blooms catching the reflected light. Asters fill the horizon with purple, a gentle chorus to the mosaic song. What makes these borders special is not their precision but their soul. They remind the passerby that beauty does not demand perfection, it grows from intention and care. A stone, once dull and overlooked, becomes radiant when given color and purpose. A path, once ordinary, becomes extraordinary when framed by patient creativity. In the end, the mosaic is more than decoration, it is a meditation. It asks us to pause, to notice the small things, and to see how fragments can form harmony. In the quiet of the garden, these painted stones whisper, even the simplest parts of nature can bloom again, not with petals, but with color. A pergola is often a frame for dreams, a structure that both shelters and invites. Yet here, in a tiny garden, the pergola is not carved from oak or forged from iron. It is born from humble PVC pipes, once forgotten in storage or discarded as trash. Painted with vision, they rise in arcs of color, transforming plastic into poetry. The rainbow pergola stands in the backyard like a joyful gateway. Red leans into orange, orange into yellow, until the entire spectrum stretches across the sky in gentle repetition. Beneath it, marigolds beam like golden suns, while chrysanthemums scatter soft bursts of pink and white. Vines curl along the painted pipes, their tendrils eager to embrace this new playground. The result is not only shade but celebration, an atmosphere where laughter belongs as much as flowers. In another corner, the pergola takes on a softer palette. Mint green and peach pipes alternate with lavender and sky blue, creating a pastel canopy above a rustic wooden bench. Asters bloom in purple clusters at its feet, while Japanese anemones lean gracefully, their pale petals reflecting the hues above. Here, the pergola feels like a secret hideaway, a gentle space where quiet thoughts can take root. For those drawn to the sea, the pipes shift into turquoise and teal, blending with sandy beige. The pergola becomes an echo of waves, a seascape standing still. Beneath its arches, sedum autumn joy unfurls its coral tones, while marigolds provide sparks of warmth against the cool colors. Light filters through, casting ripples across a mosaic path. It feels as if the ocean itself had chosen to pause here, in the heart of a small garden. What makes this pergola remarkable is not the material, it is the transformation. PVC pipes, once destined to be overlooked, are reimagined into a structure that speaks of joy, playfulness, and belonging. They remind us that beauty does not always require grand beginnings. With a brush of paint and a touch of imagination, even plastic can aspire to the sky. The rainbow pergola stands as proof that gardens are not just about what grows from the soil, they are also about what grows from the soul. A farmhouse fence has always been more than a boundary. It is a canvas for charm, a frame that gives the garden its story. In this vision, the fence finds new life not in polish or expensive designs, but in the humble embrace of recycled bottles, painted with colors that bring the countryside closer to home. The front yard greets visitors with a row of bottles gleaming between sturdy wooden posts. Each one, once discarded, now holds a brush of color: cobalt blue, sunflower yellow, apple green. They dangle in rhythm like musical notes written in glass, catching the sunlight and scattering it across chrysanthemums and asters blooming behind. The effect is playful, like laughter captured in color, welcoming every passerby with warmth. In the backyard, the mood softens. Weathered wood frames a line of pastel-painted bottles: lavender, mint, peach. The soft glow of afternoon light turns them into stained glass ornaments, subtle yet captivating. Beneath them, marigolds burst with golden cheer, while sedum autumn joy offers its coral tones, grounding the fence in autumn's quiet richness. Here, the bottles do not shout, they hum a gentle tune, reminding us that beauty is sometimes a whisper. At the patio's edge, the fence shifts again, this time bold, dressed in autumn's deepest colors. Bottles painted in red, orange, and gold crown the fence rail like jewels of the harvest. Japanese anemones lean gracefully against their glow, while asters cluster nearby in purple harmony. Together, they create a lively frame that seems to dance with the season itself. What makes this fence unforgettable is not the bottles alone, but the transformation they represent. Each piece of discarded glass or plastic carries a memory of its past, yet when painted and placed, it becomes something more, a celebration of possibility. The fence, once ordinary, becomes a gallery of light and color, a rustic farmhouse stage where the everyday turns extraordinary. In small gardens, tiny yards, and patios, this idea feels especially alive. It proves that boundaries can be joyful, that fences need not divide but can instead invite. With every painted bottle, the garden says, here is where creativity blooms, not only in the soil, but in the imagination that shapes it. There is a certain calmness the sea carries, a rhythm that feels eternal. To bring a piece of that rhythm into the garden is to carry the ocean home, not in waves, but in color and spirit. The seascape tin planters capture this essence, transforming discarded cans into coastal treasures. On a patio, the planters line a stone border, painted in turquoise, deep blue, and sandy beige. The colors mimic the sea's layers, the warmth of the shore, the cool depths of the waves. Within each planter, chrysanthemums burst in gold and marigolds shine in orange, their vibrancy echoing the sun that always belongs to the horizon. Around the base, seashells scatter like whispered souvenirs of summer days. The patio feels lighter, as though the air itself tastes faintly of salt. Beneath a backyard gazebo, the cans take on more intricate forms. Painted with swirls that echo waves, dotted with starfish and foamy white crests, they seem almost alive. Asters lean outward in purple clusters, while sedum autumn joy offers coral tones that merge seamlessly with the painted reefs. The effect is both rustic and refined, an embrace of the ocean spirit grounded in a farmhouse corner. Here, the garden becomes a harbor, a place where calm always returns. At the front yard, the seascape brightens further. Planters painted in coral, teal, and sunshine yellow overflow with Japanese anemones, their delicate petals swaying like sea grass in a gentle tide. Asters anchor the arrangement with cool purple, balancing the warmth of the painted cans. Decorative pebbles circle the base, imitating smooth beach stones, completing the illusion that one has stepped not into a garden, but onto a shoreline crafted by imagination. These tin planters tell a story of renewal. They are reminders that beauty does not have to begin grand. It can begin with what is left behind. Their transformation is not about disguising what they once were, but celebrating it, giving them a second tide, a second chance. For those who love the sea but live far from it, these planters offer a small piece of its comfort. They hold within them both the durability of metal and the softness of memory. And in their glow of painted blues and corals, they whisper of waves, of horizons endless and free. Every garden needs a little magic, and sometimes that magic does not arrive in wings or wands, but in bamboo and bottles. Simple materials, humble in their origin, are reborn into a fence that feels as though it belongs in a fairy tale. The bamboo, tall and graceful, provides structure, its natural texture blending seamlessly with greenery. Between its posts, painted bottles gleam in soft colors, glowing like captured fragments of dawn. In the morning light, the bottles shine in pastels of pink, mint, and lavender, their surfaces catching sunlight and scattering it gently across the soil. Behind them, chrysanthemums rise in golden bursts, while marigolds spill warmth across the ground. The effect is charming, like laughter held within glass, a cheerful border that brightens even the smallest of spaces. In another backyard corner, the design shifts into playfulness. Bamboo sticks create a rustic frame while bottles painted in bright hues, turquoise, yellow, coral, take the shape of blossoms and ornaments. Their colors shimmer among asters and sedum autumn joy, blending artistry with nature's palette. The fence no longer serves only as a border, it becomes a stage, where light and flower dance together in harmony. As evening falls, the magic deepens. Some bottles hold tiny fairy lights, their glow soft and inviting. Set against the bamboo rails, they create the illusion of lanterns guiding the way, a secret path meant for dreamers. Japanese anemones lean into the glow, their pale petals reflecting the soft shimmer. The entire garden feels transformed, as though fairies themselves had passed through, leaving behind little sparks of wonder. What makes this fence remarkable is not its grandeur but its spirit. It reminds us that joy does not demand complexity. It can rise from bamboo poles and discarded bottles, from paint and imagination. It shows that gardens are not simply spaces for plants, they are theaters of creativity, places where even trash can bloom into beauty. For those who wander through, the fence becomes more than a border. It is a whisper of possibility, a promise that the ordinary can hold enchantment. And in the heart of a tiny garden, it becomes a fairy companion, quietly guarding flowers, softly glowing, and endlessly inspiring. In the smallest corners of the garden, stories can be told not with words, but with stones. Tiny sculptures, shaped by hand and balanced with care, rise quietly like guardians of imagination. What was once just a handful of river stones becomes art when arranged into towers, spirals, or playful figures, each one painted with colors chosen to delight the eye and soothe the heart. In one backyard, smooth stones are stacked into miniature towers, their surfaces painted in gentle shades of lavender, sky blue, and yellow. As the sunlight strikes them, they glow softly, harmonizing with marigolds blooming in bright orange and asters shimmering in purple. The sculptures feel less like decoration and more like companions, watching quietly over the garden beds. Along a front yard path, the stones take on more whimsical forms. Painted in earthy terracotta, sage green, and cream, they are arranged into playful shapes, animals, faces, or abstract patterns. Children walking by may pause, curious about the tiny guardians, while chrysanthemums nod gently in the breeze, offering their golden crowns as though in greeting. Sedum autumn joy adds texture, its coral tones mingling with the painted stones. On a patio, the sculptures rise into spirals, almost like miniature towers reaching for the sky. Painted in jewel tones of turquoise, coral, and amethyst, they shimmer brightly against the green backdrop. Japanese anemones lean in as if drawn to the colors, their pale petals swaying beside the bold stones. Butterflies land softly nearby, adding a touch of life to the stillness of the scene. These tiny stone sculptures do not demand space or grandeur. They thrive in small yards, patios, and corners where imagination can bloom. Their beauty lies not in scale but in intention, in the patience it takes to balance one stone upon another, and the joy that comes from turning something ordinary into something extraordinary. They remind us that art is not confined to galleries. It can live in the soil, among flowers, under the sky. They show that even in the humblest of gardens, creativity can find a stage. And in their quiet presence, they teach a simple truth, that beauty often comes in the smallest of forms, waiting only to be noticed. A gazebo is often thought of as a place of rest, a stage for quiet afternoons and whispered conversations. Yet in this garden, the gazebo becomes something more, a gallery where junk is reborn as art. At its corners, scraps of forgotten metal, empty bottles, and castaway cans have been gathered, painted, and placed with intention. What was once discarded now gleams with new dignity, transforming the structure into a sanctuary of creativity. In one corner, rusted pieces of metal have been reshaped into floral motifs, their surfaces coated in bold colors, emerald green, cobalt blue, sunflower yellow. Glass bottles, once tossed aside, shimmer in sunlight, their jewel tones echoing the blooms below. Chrysanthemums rise in golden crowns, while marigolds scatter warmth across the soil. The gazebo no longer stands empty, it sings, adorned by fragments that might otherwise have been forgotten. Another corner tells a playful story. Painted tin cans dangle from hooks, swaying gently with the breeze. Coral, turquoise, and yellow paint brighten their surfaces, while their hollow bodies turn into makeshift chimes. When the wind passes through, they clink softly, joining the song of asters and sedum autumn joy blooming at their feet. The corner becomes alive, not only with sight, but with sound. In a farmhouse setting, old bicycle wheels find new purpose. Painted in pastel hues, they are mounted on the gazebo's frame, their spokes adorned with bottle petals shaped like blossoms. Japanese anemones sway nearby, their delicate forms contrasting with the sturdy shapes of the recycled art. Together, they weave a narrative of resilience, where strength and fragility coexist in harmony. What makes these gazebo corners special is not perfection but transformation. They remind us that creativity does not always begin with fresh materials. Sometimes, it begins in the pile of what we thought was useless. Junk, when given paint and vision, becomes decoration that not only fills a space but also inspires it. Visitors who step beneath this gazebo do not see trash, they see possibility. They see that beauty can be coaxed from the overlooked, that art can be born from patience, and that even in the corners of a simple structure, wonder can bloom. Some gardens bloom with flowers, others with ideas. In this tiny yard, both meet in harmony, where plastic bottles have been transformed into the cutest bug parade. Marching along the garden edge, these tiny companions bring not only color but character, whimsical figures that spark joy in children and curiosity in adults. At the front yard border, bottles become ladybugs, bumblebees, and butterflies. Painted in bold reds, yellows, and blacks, they line the pathway like a festival procession. Chrysanthemums wave behind them in golden crowns, while asters scatter their purple blooms, as though cheering for the parade. The sunlight gleams on the glossy paint, giving each bottle bug a lifelike vibrancy, as if they might scuttle away at any moment. In the backyard patio, the design turns even more playful. Beetles with striped patterns, ladybugs with cheerful polka dots, and dragonflies with painted wings take their place beside marigolds and sedum autumn joy. The combination of flowers and bug figures creates a scene alive with energy, a blend of artistry and humor that makes the space feel welcoming and warm. Guests pause to smile, children laugh, and the garden itself seems to hum with delight. Along a tiny yard fence, the bottle bugs assemble like a parade frozen in mid-step. Painted in blues, greens, and yellows, they line up neatly, a cheerful guard of honor for the Japanese anemones swaying gently above them. Real butterflies hover nearby, drawn to the blooms, as if curious about these painted cousins in their midst. The scene feels magical, playful, and inviting, an embodiment of childhood imagination brought to life. What makes this garden idea captivating is not only the artistry but the transformation it represents. Bottles, once mere trash, are reborn into figures that inspire wonder. They remind us that gardens are not only about growing life, but also about celebrating creativity. The bug parade does not simply decorate, it tells a story, one of joy and second chances, one where imagination finds its place among the flowers. In this tiny corner of the world, the garden lives not only through its plants but through the playful spirit of its bottle-born companions. And in their bright parade, we are reminded, beauty is found not only in petals, but in the smiles they inspire. There's a playful boldness in turning discarded tin cans into towers of art. In the garden, these thrifty totem poles rise not as monuments of stone or wood, but as cheerful stacks of color, standing tall in corners where laughter belongs. What was once trash becomes a story told in vertical rhythm, each can a chapter painted with joy. In the backyard, cans are stacked high, painted in vibrant turquoise, orange, yellow, and red. The colors seem to echo the marigolds blooming at their base, while asters add purple notes like a chorus around them. The towers do not try to blend in, they stand proudly, playful sentinels that bring humor and life to the garden space. On the patio, the totems grow more whimsical. Each can bears a painted face or folk-inspired pattern, eyes wide and smiles bright. Their quirky expressions seem to watch over sedum autumn joy and Japanese anemones blooming nearby. As sunlight touches the designs, they glow with personality, turning the patio into a place of conversation and delight. Children giggle at their expressions, while adults admire the artistry hidden in simplicity. In a farmhouse front yard, the totems soften into pastel hues. Lavender, mint, and peach paint coat the cans, decorated with floral patterns that echo the chrysanthemums and asters planted around them. These totems do not shout, they whisper gently of creativity, blending with the rustic charm of weathered wood and fresh blooms. Here, they feel almost like seasonal guardians, embodying the cycle of renewal and growth. The beauty of these totem poles lies not in perfection but in reinvention. They do not pretend to be sculptures carved from stone or wood. They celebrate their identity as cans, humble yet resilient. Painted and stacked, they remind us that art does not need expensive materials, only imagination and care. Placed in tiny yards, patios, or rustic gardens, these thrifty towers inspire joy. They transform space into a stage, where color and character stand tall, where creativity is not hidden but proudly displayed. And in their cheerful presence, they remind every passerby, even the smallest pieces of junk can rise to something meaningful when given a second life. The spirit of a Japanese garden lies not in abundance, but in balance. It is the art of creating flow where stillness reigns, and simplicity where complexity could intrude. In this vision, humble PVC pipes become the brushstrokes of that philosophy, painted and shaped into gentle curves that echo the movement of water. In a backyard corner, the pipes rise softly in bamboo green, stone gray, and sandy beige. They form a wave that bends along the soil, not harshly, but with grace. Behind them, chrysanthemums bloom in golden clusters, while Japanese anemones lean gently, their pale petals whispering against the wind. The effect is meditative, inviting the gaze to linger, the breath to slow. On a patio, the design grows more minimalist. Pipes painted in muted black and cream form arcs like ripples across a pond. Sedum autumn joy blossoms nearby, its coral tones adding a quiet accent, while asters contribute purple strokes against the muted canvas. The edging feels deliberate, refined, yet humble, an echo of Zen, a reminder that beauty can be born from discipline and restraint. At the front yard path, moss green and slate blue tones carry the pipes into flowing lines bordered by pebbles. Marigolds burst like suns at the edges, their brightness tempered by the coolness of the palette. A bamboo water feature trickles softly nearby, completing the scene with the sound of flow. It feels as though the garden has found its heartbeat, slow and steady, echoing the timeless rhythm of nature. The Japanese garden PVC flow does not try to disguise its material. The pipes remain what they are, yet painted and arranged with care, they become something new, a translation of nature into form. They remind us that simplicity is not emptiness, but intention. That even in the smallest spaces, flow can be created, harmony can be found. For visitors, the garden becomes a sanctuary. A place not only to see but to feel. The PVC edging is not flashy or loud, it is quiet, calm, purposeful. And in that quietness, it whispers the most important lesson of all: beauty lies not in what is added, but in what is revealed. Farmhouse gardens often carry a sense of sturdiness, built from stone, wood, and earth. Yet here, strength meets color, as a wall of painted rocks transforms a simple border into an artwork of joy. What could have been a plain gray retaining wall becomes alive with personality, every stone a burst of imagination. In the backyard, rocks stacked into a modest wall are painted boldly, turquoise beside red, yellow beside white. The effect is cheerful, almost playful, like patchwork stitched from the colors of summer. Behind the wall, marigolds stand tall in gold and orange, while asters scatter their purple blooms. Together, they create a backdrop where rustic charm meets artistic spirit. At the front yard, the tone softens. Here, pastel hues, mint, peach, lavender, sky blue, coat the stones, arranged carefully into a neat border. The colors glow gently beneath chrysanthemums and sedum autumn joy. The effect is not loud but inviting, a quiet melody of color that blends farmhouse warmth with cottage sweetness. It feels like a place where neighbors might pause at the gate, drawn by the gentle charm. On the patio, the wall becomes bolder again. Stones shimmer in jewel tones of emerald, sapphire, and ruby, catching the light as if they were gems hidden in the soil. Japanese anemones lean gracefully nearby, their pale petals contrasting with the brilliance of the stones. The low wall frames the patio not only as a structure but as a stage, where flowers and colors share the spotlight. This rock wall tells a story of reinvention. Stones, often overlooked for their heaviness or plainness, are painted into new life. They remind us that strength need not be dull, it can be radiant. They also remind us that gardens are not only about what grows but also about what frames the growth, structures that carry as much character as the blooms they support. In small gardens and tiny yards, this idea thrives. It does not take grandeur to transform space, only creativity and care. Visitors see not just a wall, but a gallery of colors, a farmhouse expression that says, "Here, beauty is not hidden, it is built into every stone." A fence can be a boundary, but in this garden it becomes a celebration. Here, bottles once discarded find new life as a rainbow, lining the patio with brilliance and joy. The patio rainbow bottle fence does not merely enclose, it invites, it dazzles, it transforms the everyday into the extraordinary. On one patio, the bottles rise in bold clarity, red beside orange, yellow beside green, blue beside violet. Together, they form a spectrum that glows beneath the sun, each bottle reflecting light like a prism. Behind the fence, marigolds and asters bloom, their petals harmonizing with the rainbow's cheer. Visitors pause at the sight, enchanted by a boundary that feels more like a painting than a structure. In another backyard, the colors soften into pastels. Peach fades into mint, lavender melts into sky blue. The gradient glows gently under the light, wrapping the patio in softness. Chrysanthemums lean close, their golden blooms glowing against the pale shades, while sedum autumn joy adds its coral accents. The effect is soothing yet playful, a reminder that joy can come in quiet tones as much as in bright ones. On a farmhouse patio, the bottles shimmer in jewel tones, emerald, sapphire, ruby, amber. Light pours through them like stained glass, casting patches of color across the stone floor. Japanese anemones sway gracefully nearby, their delicate white petals catching the reflections. The fence feels less like junk repurposed and more like treasure rediscovered, a rustic art installation born from patience and imagination. The rainbow fence carries a message, that color belongs not only in flowers but in the frames that hold them. That boundaries can be beautiful, and that recycled bottles, when treated with care, can rival even the most expensive of garden features. In tiny yards and patios, this idea shines brightest. It proves that space does not limit creativity, it enhances it. A small corner can become magical when light filters through glass, when color dances across petals, when a fence becomes a rainbow. And as evening falls, when the sun dips low and the bottles hold on to the last rays of light, the fence whispers softly, beauty is not always planted in soil. Sometimes, it is built from what we choose to see anew. The wind carries many voices, but in this garden, it finds its song through cans once left behind. Hung with care and painted with imagination, these rustic wind chimes transform air into melody, turning the ordinary into art that both sings and shines. Beneath a farmhouse pergola, the chimes sway gently. Red, turquoise, yellow, and green cans dangle from jute rope, each one painted bright and bold. As the breeze passes through, they knock softly together, producing a tune that mingles with the hum of bees and the rustle of marigolds blooming below. Asters join in with their purple accents, creating not only a soundscape but a tapestry of color. In a backyard patio, the mood softens. Cans painted in pastel peach, mint, and lavender hang from slender bamboo poles. Their tones are quiet, like whispers against the wind. Beneath them, chrysanthemums glow golden, while sedum autumn joy folds into coral shades, echoing the calmness of the chimes above. It is a space of reflection, a retreat where one might sit with tea and let the breeze speak its gentle language. At a front yard gazebo, the chimes grow richer, painted in jewel tones, sapphire, ruby, emerald. They shimmer as they sway, catching the sunlight and scattering glimmers across the floor. Japanese anemones bloom close by, their petals fluttering in rhythm with the movement. The sound is soft yet enchanting, as if the garden itself were alive with a secret orchestra. The magic of these wind chimes lies not only in their sound, but in their story. Tin cans, once destined for the trash, become instruments of charm. They prove that beauty is not just what we see, but what we hear and feel. They remind us that creativity can touch every sense, every corner of life. For visitors, the chimes add a new layer to the garden. They invite pause, not only to look at the flowers but to listen, to breathe, to be present. In tiny yards, patios, and pergolas, they transform space into sanctuary. And when the breeze stirs again, the cans knock softly, carrying a simple truth: even the most forgotten things can find a voice, and even trash can sing when given a second chance.